Hello and welcome to the CDW Tech Talk Podcast. This is the pod where we dig into the technology trends and practical insights shaping how organizations use tech to solve real business problems. I'm your host for today's episode, Brian Matthews, Head of Services Strategy for Cloud, AI, and Modern Workspace at CDW Canada. And each episode, we break down what's happening in the world of business and IT and show you how to put it into practice in your organization right away. So stick around until the end of the episode for our tech tip of the week, a simple, actionable takeaway you can adopt today. So for today's episode, this is all about AI on the front lines, not in the headlines. We've got an amazing guest who spends most of his working hours working with clients, business leaders, end users, IT teams to think about their AI and agentic AI journey. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce Shahab Ahmed, an expert in Microsoft's AI solutions, an expert in digital transformation, and one of my favorite people here at CDW. Shahab, welcome to the pod.
Thank you so much for introducing me, Brian. I'm really excited about talking about AI and talking about AI beyond the headlines, right? We're talking about what's happening on the front lines, how AI is actually being used today in Canadian workplaces. So really looking forward to it.
Okay, buddy. Introduce yourself to the team that hasn't had the opportunity to meet you yet.
So I lead our digital workspace team. So that includes all M365 elements, including Copilot and agents, as well as device management, Teams, SharePoint, the whole shebang, right? So I am extremely lucky to lead a team of very, very smart and talented people at CDW.
All right, let's jump right in, Shahab. So, there's a lot of headlines out there. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty. There is some hope, but maybe not as much as my optimistic self would like to see. Let's just jump right in, dive right in. What's the current state on the front lines based on all the conversations and all the interactions that you're having with Canadian organizations all over the country?
So I've had that opportunity to work with organizations across finance and healthcare and public sector, and implement those AI solutions right from the scratch, right? So the last 3 years or so. And I would say the real story about AI isn't about robots coming after your jobs. It's actually about AI helping people to work smarter, solve real problems, and unlock time for higher value work, right? I was talking to a project manager last week, and she mentioned how she used to book literally half a day at the end of her week to get her action items together, to get her status updates together, to get those pieces out to her customers based on everything that she's done during the week. And now it effectively is a single prompt, right? So she's worked on that prompt. It is a single prompt. It comes back. And that's hours saved every single week, right? And then another use case, and I'm sure a lot of our audience is from the tech sector, right? Is something that, even before Copilot came around was something that was being used, but Copilot took it to the next level, is around like a help desk bot, right? I've been in IT. No help desk team wants to answer, how do I connect to my VPN or how do I reset my password 11 times a day. But sadly, most of the calls that are ending up at the service desk are like that, right? So agents and especially these Copilot Studio agents allow help desk teams to focus on higher value tasks, on more complex tickets, and take away those easy things, off their plate, right? So while the headlines are talking about AI, the frontline story I would say is more grounded. It's about these small, meaningful wins, which are fairly easy, right? And they are saving time, they are reducing friction, they are helping people to do their job better every day, right?
Awesome. I love that. I love the idea of these real world current state use cases that Canadian organizations are already leveraging and already putting into place to drive business outcomes within their organization. You hit on a couple of use cases already, but I'd love to dig in deeper there and maybe get a couple of other ideas or examples from what you're seeing. Obviously, with a tool as powerful as generative AI and all of the other, AI innovation that's happening right now, a great use case is really in the eye of the beholder. And what is a great use case for me may be different for you, or for one organization might be different for another. So let's dig into use cases and where you're seeing other examples of, real world impact.
Microsoft uses the term frontier, and that is basically kind of organizations where AI is being used beyond just the personal productivity elements, right? So the elements that I kind of talked about earlier, um, they have organizational impact from a help desk perspective, or have this personal productivity impact. But then um, I would say the next step, and I'm beginning to see that, is where organizations are actually implementing agents to drive business advantage, right? And so I can talk about an insurance firm that is using a reconciliation agent that automatically detects variances in financial data, and then flags them for review. Now, it's not it's not completing the whole end-to-end process, and I don't think you want it to do that. You want that human oversight, irrespective of the accuracy of those agents. But it is about suggesting corrections based on historical patterns, um, and and you think of it from an impact perspective, right? So um, that means that finance can kind of do those closings at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter quicker. It means that they have fewer errors. It means that you're giving people time back in their lives to go spend with their families and their loved ones, right? So it's one of those elements that is, I would say, beyond just um, that productivity element, right? Another element is on the other side, is if you're in HR, right? So um, I know of another organization that created a recruitment assistant agent. So it is screening resumes, it's ranking candidates, it even flags potential green flags and red flags, and kind of questions to ask for um, candidates, right? So it's effectively, and so again, there is human involvement, but that screening time has been cut in half, right? And it's allowed them to kind of look at candidates differently. It's allowed them to ask questions that they typically wouldn't have asked, and it's allowed them to actually maybe look at some candidates that they might not have used in the past, right? Because of those elements, right? Um, and so these agents, the agents that I've talked about earlier and now, they aren't just for developers, right? These agents are developed in Copilot Studio. This is a low code platform, right? And so the business users are building them, right? It's business analysts who are training models to categorize customer feedback, right? So do sentiment analysis, like positive and negative and urgent, from a bunch of reviews that they're getting, right, for the product, and they're doing this without writing a single line of code, right? So it's uh, it, AI has kind of evolved not just as a tool for tech organizations and tech teams. It's kind of gone beyond that to empower the frontline employees, right? To solve those problems, automate tasks, and make those better decisions. Again, they're making those decisions, but AI is kind of helping them get to those decisions quicker and better.
As advertised, thought leadership, real world insight. Some Shahab, I appreciate everything there. So, kind of last main section here, and I'm a bit inspired by the book that's kind of over my shoulder here. Do hard things right now. When I think about 2026, I think about this incredible transformation and disruption that we're going through. It may be obvious or more obvious to lots of people that there's some things that we need to do ahead, and although some of the elegance of the technology makes it a bit easier, this will not be easy. This is going to be really, really hard for individuals, for teams, and for organizations. So when you think about that, what are you seeing in terms of challenges, concerns, barriers? What are some of the hurdles that organizations, business leaders, and IT teams need to think about as they, plan out their successful AI journey?
Yeah, no, and you're right, Brian, to kind of talk about this, right? The upside is massive, but it does have its set of challenges, right? And we have to address those challenges, right? And one of the most commonly challenges that I come across is that uncertainty credibility issue that AI has, right? Can I trust this? Can I rely on this, right? And the answer is yes, but verify, right? So you can, but I would not send something to my boss. I would not send something out to my manager. Um, I think it's important to still own your work, right? So the AI is kind of going to amplify what you do, but it is your work and it has to be your work, right? Um, and and I think the piece there for change managers, for technology organizations who are responsible for rolling this out, is that they are also responsible for ensuring that the right training is delivered, right? Um, and especially if you're working in some sort of regulated industries, right? Privacy is an important element. Data security is an important element, and this has been something that's been foundational from day one around MT65 Copilot. Is that data security piece? Is that privacy piece? Right? That enterprise grade. So even if you go, you'll see that green shield that says enterprise data protection piece, where Microsoft is standing behind those elements, right? And it keeps your data in your tenant. But I would say organizations still need those policies. Organizations still need those governance. Organizations still need to provide that training, right? And that is, I would hope that is part of a broader change management plan. One way that I've seen a lot of progress around that is kind of identifying those champions around your organization. So those Copilot champions, AI champions, right? And again, these need to be business frontline employees who are willing to go through that change, who are willing to look at business flows and processes and figure out how AI can do them better. And that peer-to-peer learning makes a huge difference, right? So I think it's a very exciting time to be in AI, but I think you have to work through those challenges to kind of get to where you can see those advantages.
I love that. Two big themes there. You still have to own your work. I think that's a huge message. I think that's an important message. And then just also, just the potential of this moment and what we all have. Shahab, we are running out of time. I got two kind of final questions for you. First off, you're an incredible technologist, an amazing thought leader. Why do you choose to spend your days right now working in AI?
So I've always been excited by the slight unknown that technology brings, right? So as soon as you're on that bleeding edge, you don't really know what the path forward looks like, right? And so if I look back to what Copilot looked like, I don't know, just over 2 years ago to where it is now, it's absolutely night and day, right? And we had naysayers at the time, and we have naysayers today. But in terms of the progress that's been made, is insanely amazing, right? And so to be part of that journey is immensely exciting. Microsoft is throwing at us 11 new things a day, and I think that's where our value as CDW, as architects, kind of comes to the fore, right? In terms of helping organizations navigate through those and kind of separating the fact from the fiction and kind of guiding them through to impactful outcomes. Right.
11 new things a day seems a bit modest. I think I'll take the over on that one. But just to wrap up, you've got a captive audience of business leaders, IT decision makers. Shahab, give us your tech tip of the week. What's something that you can leave the audience with?
I'm going to go with something so simple, something so basic, but something that people miss all the time, right? And I get this question so many times where people are like, oh, I'm trying to figure out how to do this with AI, right? That's great that they reached out, and I'd be more than willing to help. But sometimes the first point of entry to AI is AI, right? And now you have elements like in Copilot, like Prompt Coach, that will actually help you get started, right? And it is not to say that is the complete journey. There are other agents like researcher and analysts that we didn't have time to talk about today. But if you're figuring out how Copilot or how AI can add value, ask AI, right? Like it will give you that starting point of sorts. And then as you kind of circulate that with your peers, you take that next step.
Amazing. You and I have talked a lot about this idea of reflexive AI usage, and it's just those little habits that we can build, those little use cases as individuals that can put us on that, path to getting more into agentic AI and all those other things. So, Shahab, amazing insight today. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I love your perspective. based on all the client engagements and all the individuals and organizations that you're working with on a daily basis. I think you did an amazing job painting some real world current state use cases that are driving value right now in February of 2026. And then lastly, really great call out on some of the challenges and barriers. So with that, Shahab, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have an excellent day.
Thanks for having me, Brian. I had a blast doing this.
All right, let's do it again soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.